All right. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today in Sisterhood. I'm so excited to be here. This morning, we are on kind of a week 3 of the 4 agreements and how that plays out in sisterhood and then in our conversation afterwards. So, without further ado, week 3 is don't make assumptions. And I like to add, and if you do, always make them positive and compassionate. If you're going to assume something, assume the absolute very best outcome, situation, story, timeline, perspective, and then include that compassion. Make it compassionate. If you're going to assume something, it better be really good. Okay. Um, when we when we don't expect them to know what it is that we have going on, neither should they, right? Like they don't need to expect to know, you shouldn't expect to know. And so those assumptions get us in trouble. Be clear and thorough so they don't have to assume. Just be direct, lay it all out. And that goes back to our first lesson, to be impeccable with our words. When we are clear and thorough, they don't have to assume anything. So we have that really cool power to not assume. Should I say that in a kazoo? I don't know. That would be interesting. So then the second, you don't want down? Okay. Okay. You are safe. This also saves us from taking things personally, which is the second lesson. Don't take things personally. When we approach a situation and not make assumptions or expect the best of whatever that situation or conversation or perspective is, that saves us from taking something personally. And it also convicts us to be more clear in our communication so that, again, they don't have to do any assuming either. Because if we aren't making assumptions, we don't want others to make assumptions, right? So that brings us back to that communication. So I have a quick story I wanted to share with you all as like what that can look like for you. So I live on this dirt road, and there are, and on the end of the road, which is me, we have 3 or 4 year-round residents. And outside of that, there's another development right before ours that has probably the same amount of year-round residents, but a lot more homes. And there was this guy, and he drove this gray Subaru very belligerently. And instead of being Mary, you sit down, you sit down. He was naughty. And so I was able to create a story in my head that allowed me not to be mad at him for being naughty. Because we can make assumptions that he's a jerk and that he's just in a hurry, or we can make assumptions that are positive. So that can be something like the story I made up for him, that he's a brain surgeon that's in a really big hurry and he's on call and he has to get to town right away. And when he's coming home, he has to get home to his diabetic dog. I just made up that story because I didn't want to be mad at him. And I didn't want to make any other assumptions. I just wanted it to be a light, fluffy, compassionate story. And I encourage you, maybe you've got something in your life that is negative, right? Like my naughty neighbor. What if you could just spin a positive story and make light of it and enjoy it and just let it be? So that's an encouraging, I don't know, story for you all this morning. And then kind of the final thought is that 9 times out of 10, people are thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you. And so when we make assumptions, We're thinking about ourselves. We're not thinking about them. So what if we think different? What if we think outside of ourselves? And when we do, when we think outside of ourselves, we unlock this something that other people think is a superpower or see as a superpower because they are so inside of themselves, right? Thinking about themselves that when someone else thinks outside of themselves, they're like, where is this coming from? Who are you? How could you? Why do you think that way? Like, why don't you think about yourself like I do? Kind of thing, right? And so we can think about this the same in business. Because, yes, every single yes that we get in life or business equals something positive for us, right? But what if we think outside of that and open up the abundance of that yes to what does that create for them? What's that equation for them? When they say yes to your thing, yeah, it equals abundance in your bank account and other areas of your life. But what does it equal for them? When you can unlock that and think about them and their story versus you and yours, that's when selling becomes a service. And that's when that unique perspective of yours becomes remembered or rememberable because it's not about you. It's about them, which is not super common. So Ty, I really enjoyed the I'm it's okay. It's okay. Can I kiss it? Can I kiss it? Oh, okay. All right. I really enjoyed tying these back to our first two lessons. I really enjoyed tying these to our first two lessons because when we are clearly communicating and being impeccable with our words, they don't have to assume anything. We've given them all the details they need. And it also saves us from taking things personally because we're thinking outside of ourselves when we're not making assumptions. And if we do, always make them positive and compassionate. So those are my little tidbits for you this morning. Thank you for hearing Mary stub her finger. And we will get into our live discussion and see where this lands for you all. And I guess maybe my question is there a negative story right now in your head or life that you can change perspective on so you're not making those negative assumptions and you're building a positive outlook? So with that, we'll end here and go into our live discussion.